Hey guys, it's Tyler and welcome to another CGS live stream, a continuation from our last stream together on this Fox Wizard character and their little pal, the Shroom buddy, and then we came up with this fun little third character here, this sort of anthropomorphic animated cauldron character, who I think we named Bubbly, I think was the name there. No name for the other two yet. Maybe we'll figure that out in time. So we've got the line art done here. We've got the design basically figured out. I'm going to do a couple little things here before we go into the next phase, but we're essentially done with that part. And then we're going to dive into some of the shadows. I'll do those three kinds of shadows, the holy trinity of shadows: Ambient Occlusion, form shadows, and cast shadows. Form shadows basically being self shadows. It's sometimes an easier way to imagine those. All right, so without further ado, let's jump in here, and hope you guys are having a great week. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel here. Always helps us out a lot, trying to grow this community and keep bringing you guys awesome content, so that would be much appreciated. Hey Marsupial, good to see you. Welcome in. Right, so yeah, what was the thing I was going to do before I went to the next step? I wanted to just get the ears connected to the head. I kind of fudged it a little bit here, and I don't want to fudge anything. I want to complete the connection here to the head. So let's just do that real quick. But this is sort of indicating that shadow that we're going to have coming in. And I don't mind indicating a bit of the shadow here in the line art sometimes. But I don't give it too much time because that's all going to disappear when we get to the render portion of things. And I can see that as I connect that, I'm thinking I want to adjust this just a bit. Let's move this slightly down. Waffling a bit on how high I want these ears to connect, but it's kind of an important decision. Okay, yeah, that's I think that's feeling pretty good. Reminds you of Ori. Cool. Ori's awesome. Hey, Rushback. Doing pretty good. Yeah, okay, cool. So now we gotta, before we go into the shadows pass here, I'm gonna do a kind of a mask layer. I'm just going to kind of paint and fill in the whole character. That way when we're dealing with the shadows, we don't have to worry about staying in the lines, because nobody likes to stay on the lines. That's just a hassle, right? So hey, Blasphemer. Good to see you again. Am I selling the cards yet? No, actually. Funny enough you asked, though. I have them on order with the printer right now. And I should get some test copies in in a week or so, and I'm gonna just check and make sure everything looks good, the colors are the way I want them to be, and the paper feels good, and all that sort of stuff. And then I think I'll be ready to share it with everybody. But yeah, thanks for your interest, though. I'm excited to see them too. It's always fun to see stuff printed out. You know, it kind of makes it feel more real. And inevitably, we're going to probably find that there's things that we're going to tweak about this after we render it. So don't be worried about your lines not being 100% what you want. I mean, it's nice if they are, right? But you don't have to be tense and nervous about the situation. Just do your best. Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm hopeful we can get to some colors this time around. I'm not sure if we'll finish the whole thing, but we're going to get a good chunk of the way in here, and I think we'll get to some colors, which will be a lot of fun to see. Got to make sure we fill in our happy little star here. He's just glad to be along for the ride. He's saying, don't forget me, guys. Don't worry, Mr. Star. We're gonna keep you around. You're an important part of the equation here. Hey Zane, you never see me create cute stuff. Yeah, people don't usually see me create cute stuff, so it's kind of fun to do, actually. But yeah, this is for the modeling department, so I thought, well, we'll do something lighthearted and whimsical. Stars like the ones from Mario 64. Oh, of course I remember that game. It was amazing. When I'm painting in masks like this, I really enjoy using a brush that has some shape dynamics to it, because I can make the brush tinier for these tiny cracks and crevices, and then I can make it much bigger for the big areas like this. I'm changing my brush size along the way too, but You know, why not give yourself a bit more control and make the process just a little bit more efficient? Remember, you can hold shift down to draw straight lines. Always a appreciated helping hand there. Thanks, Photoshop. I was thinking about maybe having a secret word for my stream here. Anybody of you guys remember Pee-wee's Playhouse? But of course it would be some kind of an art term, right? Something we wouldn't be saying too often. It's funny when you're filling in shapes like this, you'll notice all kinds of places where your lines didn't connect. At least I do anyway. And that's totally fine. What's the subject I enjoy drawing the most? That's a tough one. I'd say maybe just fantasy characters in general, I would say, are my favorite. And I think villains, maybe. More like sinister characters tend to be. My favorite when I was growing up, watching movies, I was always fascinated with the villains in movies. Of course, Darth Vader and General Kale from Willow, the Kurgan from Highlander, the Terminator from Terminator 1, the Predator, Alien. It's just all the bad guys are always super interesting, super fun. Super evil, but super fun. Or like Pinhead from Hellraiser, right? That's a fun character. It's funny to describe how Pinhead is fun, but you guys know what I'm talking about. One of the things I like about Pinhead, as compared to some of the other sort of old school horror villains, is he seems a little more layered. There's a bit of depth to his character versus somebody like a Jason, who is very much just kind of a one-note serial killer. And you can see there's kind of some stuff going on and there's some gears turning in the mind of Pinhead, which I appreciate. Hey Penny, welcome in. Glad you could join us. Marsupial asks if I'll ever create card illustrations of cute and cool characters like the one I'm doing now. It could be. That could happen. I mean, the little like collector cards I'm doing for the Knights, maybe they'll feature some more cute characters as a series. I'm leaving that whole thing pretty open. I want it to just be an outlet for any potential types of characters. So there could be a series that ends up being some cute characters like this. I am not averse to that at all. Or Frank from Hellraiser. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the characters, there's kind of some layers going on. I think those are the most fun. And obviously, Vader fascinated people a lot. And then they decided, well, we need to kind of tell the whole story of Vader. I think people, if they see a character like a villain doing some crazy nutty stuff, you immediately wonder, well, what got him to that point, right? What made him such a weirdo? I think that's why people are so fascinated with true crime, because you're fascinated by all these weirdos and what turned them into weirdos, You want to know why. And sometimes there isn't a why, or an obvious one anyway. But it's still pretty fascinating. So satisfying watching me fill in the lines. I'm glad it is. Maybe it's some kind of like weird OCD thing, right? Where you're just like, oh, it's getting all filled in. There is something satisfying about it, I agree. All right, Bubbly. We got you, Bubbly. You're in the club. It's like the Aunt Zelda from the original Pet Sematary film. Very creepy backstory to the character. Yeah, the backstory helps a lot. I'm not a fan when you don't get the backstory. You want Billy Crystal to do the voice of Bubbly? Oh my gosh, that would be perfect, right? That's a great suggestion. Okay. Well, there he is. He's filled in. She, right? It's a she. This is the she fox wizard, I guess. We got our mushroom, we got our cauldron, we got our staff and the star friend. Everybody's filled in. So now we can do the Ambience Occlusion pass. We'll turn off the colors. Sorry, everybody. Colors are going to go away. We're going to lower the line art down. And here comes the Ambience Occlusion. So we'll use the mask we just painted as an alpha mask for this layer. And we can kind of just start painting in these Ambience Occlusion shadows. So again, Ambience Occlusion, if people aren't familiar with that, that's the sort of soft shadows that happen in all the cracks and crevices. It's going to be the kind of darkest values in your piece. They're the deepest shadows. And they tend to be kind of there. They don't care about the directional lights, the main directional lights in the scene as much. So you can paint a lot of those in without worrying too much about your lighting choices. Because the whole point of them is that they exist because the ambient light isn't getting into those areas. Certainly if the key light is hitting into a crevice of something, it's going to kind of annihilate the ambient occlusion in that area. But I'm not worried about that. I kind of just do an overall global pass. Then we'll put in some of the directional lighting via the graphic shadows. And I'll talk everybody through that as we go along here. But yeah, so this is going to be the Ambience Occlusion pass. And at this stage, we're not super worried about our directional lights. Now, with this pass here, as with everything in art, it's like a puzzle. And you want to kind of put the pieces in first that are most obvious to you. And then it's a process of isolation, right? Then the pieces, the parts that are missing become smaller. And through process of elimination, you can kind of put in the pieces that were harder to figure out initially. So when you're starting this off and you're not sure, kind of find the easiest, most obvious areas to you. So, you know, the area under the neck, for example, you know, that might be an area where we're going to see some shadows happening. That's pretty obvious. We might see kind of a bit underneath the little muzzle area of the face here. Under the nose. And you don't have to do the face first. That might actually make you a little nervous, so don't worry. You can start on something else. But yeah, there might be just a bit of ambience occlusion right around the eyes here. And this step is just a whole lot of fun for me. Because this is where we start to see things change from being flat to being dimensional. We were thinking dimensionally with the lines, and we were trying to make it feel as 3D as we could, but Value can do a whole lot more than the lines can do. We want to be sort of a detective and be looking out for these little intersection points. So you see how this kind of scarf element, or I guess this is a cape element, right? The cape element and the belt intersect at this little junction here. That's a perfect place for us to be popping in some of that ambient occlusion. Again, here's another spot right here. And generally under the arm, we can get some ambient occlusion there. And in many ways, this is going to feel like you're sort of accenting your line work, and you kind of are. But the key distinction here is that the ambience occlusion kind of dissipates and it pulls up in these junctions, and it doesn't happen on some places where the lines were dark, we're not going to get that shadow happening on like this edge, for example. This is kind of popping up, really isn't a crevice at all, right? This is something that's sticking off the form. So we won't have ambient occlusion here. So that's an important distinction to realize. And give yourself time for this pass. It takes a bit, and the more thorough you are with this pass, the more polished your render is going to look, the more thorough the render is going to feel, and so it's worth spending the time on it. If you get to the end of this pass and you've hit everything and you feel like you were a bit timid about it, perhaps, which can happen, you can always just duplicate this ambient occlusion layer, stack it on top of itself, and it makes all of your decisions twice as confident for free. So that can hopefully kind of ease your mind a bit on that. But I tend to do kind of what I call like an AO plus, an ambient occlusion plus, where I'll take this ambient occlusion and I'll just spill it out a little bit more broadly over the form. Where this shadow might just kind of wrap around a bit more. We see it kind of falling off a little more heavily. You're going to see me doing that quite often, and it's going to be more obvious as we get further along in this pass. Also, as I get the rhythm down too, and my vision kind of calibrates to the image. These ambient occlusion choices will just start to get a bit more confident. Your first time here, well, welcome in. How long does it take to complete an illustration from scratch? How do I finish it in one go? And you're welcome for the terminology. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the time it takes to finish an illustration is very much based on the subject matter and the complexity. There's such a wide variety of possible levels of complexity, right? If we had a scene that was one character versus a scene with 10 characters, and how familiar you are with the subject matter. If it's something you paint all the time, it would probably go faster than something that you don't paint very often. So for example, if I had a scene here where it was like 10 people riding through the desert on camels, right? That would take me a long time because I don't draw or paint camels ever, right? And then there's a lot of characters in the scene, so that would be a very time-consuming project versus, I don't know, like just some kind of like elf girl standing in the forest, right? Like that's way easier for me, so it's going to be just based on kind of what are the things that you draw or paint all the time. So yes, but I'd say for a character that is not super challenging for me, I try to have it done in a day. It's just kind of a simple spot illustration of a single character with a simple kind of background element. But that's like a very rough ballpark. And that can change if you need to do revisions, and if you kind of miss things your first go around. So it's variable. Sometimes you can sneak in a few little extra wrinkly bits in this pass too, like some of these wrinkles that I was putting into the line art. You can put those into this AO pass as well. See, under this little satchel here, this is a perfect place for some of that ambient occlusion to creep up in there. You can think of it like the glue that's binding everything together in the scene. You guys see how that's starting to feel kind of dimensional there? And then we're gonna sort of broaden the AO. This is that AO plus that I'm talking about, where we have the AO spill out a little bit further than it might normally, but that's kind of a stylistic choice there. But I like the way that feels. You might imagine it like if you were painting miniatures. Some of you maybe have painted like miniatures, like Warhammer figures before. And you do that pass where you stain the figure, you know, where you kind of do a wash and all the dark paint gets in all the crevices. You know, that is very similar to what we're doing here. And by doing the AO plus, we're sort of just doing a heavier stain pass on it. Do I use AO on all my pieces? The only pieces where I wouldn't use ambient occlusion is if the style is not a rendered style. So something that's more graphic. But anything that's supposed to look more kind of rendered, definitely include ambient occlusion. I may not do it this particular way every time. If it's like a quick kind of grayscale painting, then I might just sort of paint all the highlights and shadows at the same time. But I'm thinking about ambient occlusion, absolutely. It's always in my mind. It's an important part of the equation there. When I'm not in a rush, I like to take my time with this step, just kind of relax, because I find it kind of relaxing to do this step. If you're in a hurry, of course, you got to kind of move it along, but if you're not, just kind of appreciate the process. Save your work if you're working on something right now. Remember to save what you're doing. Oh, you have your Q&A after this stream? Oh, great. It's good timing. Satisfying watching Put the AO on. I'm glad you like it. I definitely enjoy watching it come together as well there. I like knowing that each part of the process is, its purpose is clear in my mind. The clarity is such a tough thing to get when you're getting started with art, you know? Feels like sometimes you're a little bit lost. I can definitely appreciate that, that clarity that, these steps can bring. All these tiny little details. And this character's fairly simple too. Can you imagine if we were doing something super crazy, realistic, detailed? We have to make sure we spend a lot of time on the Ambience Occlusion pass. If you guys are ever curious, what are there examples of this kind of pass somewhere? Can I look at, because you may not see this part of the process exposed on art you look at online, right? This whole idea, this notion of an AO pass is kind of from the 3D world. So if you're looking for examples of what an AO pass would look like, just look up literally Ambient Occlusion pass on like Google, and you'll see 3D renders where this is one stage of the render, and the complete render is kind of a composite of different layers of lighting information. This is just one of those layers, but a 3D render is going to show you the best example of what this is. And I have a background in 3D, so I was kind of familiar with how this looked, and the concept really made sense to me. I'm going to actually kind of change this from the line art. I want to kind of give this a little bit of the same kind of flow on this side. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, that's something you can look up if you want to see super hyper accurate looking ambient occlusion pass on something. The vibes are chill. Excellent. Got to be chill, man. You got to get in the zone. You don't know why you're rushing. Yeah, it's it happens. Just the kind of like feeling like you need to move quickly. It's just sometimes some anxiety that causes that, or just a desire to see it further along than it is. I think sometimes it's just a lack of clarity, right? You're thinking, well, if I push along, I know that I'm going to have more clarity as I get further in. So you're really striving to get further along. But if you know the purpose of each of those steps, then you can have confidence sort of living in that stage, right? You can kind of chill out there because okay, there's a reason I'm at this point. And the purpose of that point you're at. So I think that's something that will help you slow down a bit. Let's see. Husky asks, will the white spots on the right hand be covered during a future pass? You're noticing some of my yes, there's some little glitches in the matrix there, which will definitely be resolved later. Yeah, absolutely. Inevitably, you're going to find tiny little bits here and there that you might have missed in your masking layer, or a little 1 pixel edges that need a bit of help. But there is a pass that happens at the very end of this where we basically collapse everything together and paint raw on the top, bring a bit of that energy back, make some final choices, and that's the step where we can make some corrections and clean up any little errors along the way. Absolutely. Yeah, happy accidents, exactly. Totally intentional, I assure you. Winky face. Let's take some liberties here where we'll just kind of fill in this area with some shadow. Even though, we could probably do this in the graphic shadow pass, and we will. But it doesn't hurt to just kind of fill it in a little bit. So, this is a place where, we could decide to kind of add a little bit of roundness to the form by shadowing from the sides. It's not really accurate, because there's not necessarily the ambience is actually getting to the edges here. So we don't really want to do that too much. We want to stick to these areas here. That can feel a little counterintuitive because the side shadow is going to come in when we put in the graphic shadows next. And that's going to be based on the light direction. So you got to kind of remind yourself the uniqueness of each step, but I'll do it sometimes just as a way to feel the form a little bit. Just be kind of cautious about getting too crazy with that because it's going to work against you in some ways if you get too heavy with it. Like you can see here, there's I put a little bit of shadow on the edge of the arm here. I knock this one back a little bit, just to kind of feel the roundness of the form there, even though, we may not end up with, the Ambience Occlusion certainly wouldn't be over there necessarily, right? We're not going to it's not a really crack or crevice there, but that's okay. Like we don't need to be super, super careful about it. You can have just a little bit of suggestion of it rounding as a way to give yourself some clarity on that. But it's the cracks and crevices that we're mostly concerned about at this stage. And think about distance objects are from each other. Like, see, we put this Ambience Occlusion around, haloing around the mushroom, and because we did that, it gives the feeling that the mushroom is pushing into or is against her little outfit here. And that would be different, right, if we had this sort of tilting off in a way. It wouldn't be causing that. And we could even insert some depression marks too if we wanted to really get that feel like it's pushing in, right? That gives us a nice quality there, almost like a Michelangelo sculpture, right, where you got that kind of like fingers pushing into flesh. It's a really fun thing to include in the piece. Reminds you of using your fingers to smudge out shadows. Yeah, it is kind of like that. Or what do they call those little blending? Those fancy little twirled paper sticks. Forget the name of those things. I never used those things. In reverse there a little bit just because wanted that whole area to get sufficient AO. It's no longer looking flat. Yeah, for sure. This stuff definitely kind of starts to add dimension to things. Yeah, no worries. I definitely can relate. Most artists have what they call imposter syndrome, which is where you feel like you're not really as good as you need to be, and as good as people might think you are. You're not alone in that feeling. here I'm going to kind of abuse the system a little bit and just add some roundness to this staff. Just for the sake of feeling out the form a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm going to put a little bit of AO there, though. A little bit in that section. And certainly between these sections here, that's for sure. It reminds you of some of the Eevee evolutions in Pokemon. Yeah, I could see that. I think Eevee's an awesome character. Again, just to reiterate, as you get further along, you're going to gain extra clarity, and you'll zoom out and you'll see where you might need to tweak things a bit. I like adding a little bit of this edge shadowing just to help me see the forms a little bit there. Do I ever get eye fatigue from working? Yeah, for sure. Or if you're just not rested too, you know, your eyes kind of get tired if you're not getting enough rest. I'm a little sleep deprived today, actually, which is not unusual for me. I'm kind of an insomniac. But yes, the answer to your question is absolutely. And you got to take breaks it's just inevitable. Step away, and sometimes it's good to be doing some of your art practice not looking at a screen. Jump into your sketchbook and give yourself some nice natural lights, and that can be a good break from looking at a screen all day. But yeah, that's a good question. That absolutely. I mean, I've had coworkers who have succumbed to migraines many times because of eye strain and eye fatigue. And I also suffer from migraines, but I get them less from eye strain, luckily. But unluckily, I get them from other things like, sleep issues or allergies, stuff like that. So you just gotta kind of like listen to your body and pay attention and try to be in a good state when you're trying to get into the art zone. You saw the trailer for Little Nightmares 2, and it looks just more disturbing compared to the first one. Cool. I can get into that. This whole thing is going to end up getting shadowed in the graphic shadows pass, so I'm not going to try and fill that in too much. I did a little bit here, but I'm not worried about doing it everywhere. That's not really the purpose of this pass. You could do it if you want to, completely optional. But yeah, we're going to hit that much harder when we put in the next shadow pass there. All right, I'm going to give just a bit of roundness to this to help feel it out. But yeah, we're gonna definitely want to go in and get these. These are the really important ones. Something kind of fun to do at this stage is to turn the lines off and just see what you've got, how it's looking. And you can see that starts to feel quite dimensional without the lines in place there. That's a sign that you're doing it correctly. Satisfying one to put in there, right? Nice big cauldron shape. It's alive. It is alive. It's getting there. You want to try to think dimensionally about this stuff. You know, it may feel kind of flat in your head, especially something like a happy face. This is essentially like an emoji. But we want to think dimensionally about it, you know. I just use a smudge tool here and there to even out some of that stuff if I start to get some weird overdraw issues. You can use smudge to tidy those up. You can imagine the characters in a game. Good, yeah. I hope that that's the feel we end up getting with this. All right, so I think we've got pretty good Ambience Occlusion happening here, and maybe get a little darker underneath this section here. Okay. Okay, so before we do the graphic shadows pass, I like to block in our flats underneath, the flat colors. Then we'll do graphic shadows on top there. Yeah, so I think we're ready to do that, which will be a lot of fun. Now, when I block in the colors, they're all layered, so I'm not super concerned about making my final color choices right away. We're going to put them in, we're going to adjust them. Inevitably, we're going to kind of change our mind a little bit. We're going to mess around with some color complements, potentially. Mainly, what we want to make sure we do is think about where we want different colors to be, right? The separation between color regions, not necessarily the exact colors we want to have in the end, because again, we can adjust that quite easily. So really, it's just about kind of picking out the regions right now. But we'll try to eyeball some colors that we might want in this, and I'm thinking about it right now. And again, it's like a puzzle. There's some that are very clear to me, other ones that I'm not as clear about. You know, like the staff handle is wood, so we can go with the wood tone there. That's pretty obvious to me. You know, this star is likely going to be yellow. I don't know what material it is. That might live in the mysterious zone. You don't want to really do that too often. You don't want to make your materials mysterious. You want to really be pretty sure about what your materials are, because otherwise we're not going to know the specularity, right? The reflections, we won't know. Well, you're gonna have to make a choice about it eventually. I guess making it look maybe porcelain, like yellow porcelain, might be kind of fun. Yeah, cauldron, probably some kind of darker tone. And on her, there's going to be kind of a duotone thing going on. We're going to have some lighter areas, some darker areas, kind of block that out. Let's dive into the staff here first and define the color on that color region anyway. So how do we do that? Well, let me just name some layers here, get myself organized. So this is our line art. This is our flat mask. This was our underdrawing. This is our background. This is our ambient occlusion, which is going to live in our shadows layer. Let's put this on top here. And now we'll do a new layer group called flats. And I'm going to take our mask that we had and use that as an alpha mask for this layer again, so we don't have to worry about painting outside the lines. And let's just eyeball a color to use here for our staff. Make sure you're painting on the layer, not on the mask. Oops, now we're on the wrong color. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Now the cool thing is that the Ambience Occlusion that we painted is transparent, right? So that's interacting with our flats now that are underneath. And we're going to set this to multiply. Make sure it's darkening everything appropriately. Yes, this is Photoshop we're working in. Yes, Photoshop. And you guys are going to notice little, missing pixels here and there, and that's just going to happen. Those will be cleaned up easily in the last step. Okay, there's that. Let's do a new one here. Let's do the grip area. So the way I get these new regions is as we go through and we define all these areas, we start to eliminate more of the image, right? We work our way to less and less of it. And we want our masks to start to help us paint these areas easier each time. So we'll select the overall mask we had to begin with. Then we're going to subtract the area we just painted of the staff handle here by holding Control and Alt on this layer, right? So then that removes that section, and then we create a layer mask for the new layer based on that new selection area, right? So that's everything minus what we just painted. Process of gradual subtraction there. And now we can find a new color we want to use. Let's say this is just a little bit more warm and a little bit brighter. Maybe a bit more desaturated. And now you can notice that I can paint right over this and we're not getting any issues. And that's how you're going to get pretty good clean selections between the regions there without a lot of hassle. Again, you may have small, tiny little like 1 pixel bleed issues, but that can be easily cleaned up in the end. So don't worry too much about that stuff. I mean, you don't want there to be huge glaring holes in what you're doing. It should be mostly correct, but little issues like that are not a huge deal. I mean, we can see even if we just zoom out at a kind of normal distance, you don't even see those little issues, but we're going to fix them up anyway. Okay, so this is staff grip, I suppose you could call it that. You know what, maybe we'll make this, now, you know what, I'm going to leave that as a separate one. And then the question is the hat the same color as the coat here? Or the, whatever, I guess it's a coat, right? Maybe the cape. Let's block in the hat region anyway. We can do that. That's going to be good to do. So we can subtract those areas we've got already. Not that we need to. There's no overlap there too much, but there's a little bit here. And I'm going to... again, we're going to change our mind as we go, so, but I'm going to let's just put some purple on here for now and see how we're feeling about that. Okay, let's do the cape now. Liking the purple feeling, occult, mystical. Yeah, I think purples could work for that. That's my initial feeling on it anyway. We'll see how it comes together. But I think I'm going to go with some warm tones for her actual fur. So I'm thinking that some cooler tones for the outfit, or at least parts of the outfit, will be good. Ew, it's a nasty little gap there. That's all good. Again, we're going to fill this stuff in later. Oh, that's all purple, isn't it? Getting in the zone there. What is the best way to start using the occlusion digital painting meter? I'm not sure I know what that is. You'll have to share that with us. What's the digital occlusion digital painting meter? I haven't heard of that. Look at her cute paws, how adorable. That's the idea. I'm glad that's coming through. Oh, I'm glad, Penny. Penny, thanks. Okay. Let's see, did I get everything I wanted there? Yeah. Let's do the armbands, and I think I'm going to include the hat band with the armbands. I think those can be the same thing. So we'll do arm/hat band. I'm waffling on this one. We're going to go a neutral tone and see. May change our mind on that. Maybe a peachy color? Yeah, that could work. She's cute, but with attitude. Yeah, maybe she could perform some powerful spells or something and be the game's protagonist. You know, maybe what we want to do next, after we finish these characters, maybe we want to think of who the antagonist of this world is. You know, who is the evil villain that she's trying to overcome. That'd be kind of fun, right? I always like building up a story and giving a little weight to our creations by forming a more of a universe. And again, this is for the modeling program at CGS. The students get, as part of their curriculum, there's sections where they can choose different concepts to model, and so they were asking me to do some extra concepts, and so they wanted them to be a little bit on the simpler side, less realistically rendered, but just the form's kind of simpler. And so that's kind of how I approached this one. So, you know, if we did more characters as part of this universe, then that would still meet that criteria, right? I think, generally. So I think that might be kind of neat to think of that. Ooh, an evil badger warlock. So you guys are already in the zone. I'm feeling it. What's next? What's the next color here? I'll just put in that yellow star because it feels so left out. Here we go, Mr. Yellow Star. Ooh, that's a really bright situation, isn't it? I'm going to tone that down a little bit here. Let's go. Let's go right around there. Yeah, that feels better. We're going to make this colorful, but we're not going to make it... It's going to be an element of sort of natural... naturalistic component to this palette. So we may end up desaturating the colors overall a bit. I don't know. We'll see. I'm undecided. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's do the buttons. Let's do the buttons here. That's the yellow star is making me think of yellow buttons as well, so we'll do that, but we'll change it up just slightly. Let's go just a little bit warmer with it. Well, let's try something in that region there. Secret of Nim vibes. Oh my goodness. You're bringing in the crazy nostalgia now. Love that movie. Love me some Don Bluth animation vibes. Do I do storyboards? You know, not really. Not really. I could do them. It's not that I could not do them. I don't get a lot of work for storyboards. Okay, buttons are in. I wonder if the handle of the cauldron wants to be gold too, or is that silver? That's a good question. Do the belt here. I think that's going to be kind of a darker version of the staff color. I think, again, we're going to change our mind on some of this stuff later. We just want to get it all blocked in. We'll call this the Satchel Belt, I guess. Sure, let's try that. I think I want those threads to be different than the rest of it. Let's keep those out of this layer. But yeah, doing all this stuff is going to be great because we're going to have so much control over all of our color choices. You know, for the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna include this little extra belt unit in the main belt color here. I feel like those go together. Now the question is, do we want the actual pouch here to be included or not? Thinking probably should be. Maybe it's slightly different. Maybe it's like a little bit darker or lighter. I'm gonna leave it separate just so that I have the opportunity to tweak it a bit. It's better to go with more control, because you never know, you might get to the end of this process and really wish you had the ability to tweak that thing independently. The other thing you could do if you wanted to just completely avoid this step is you could do just a color comp, like a really rough color comp overall, you know, just block stuff in. Don't worry about how clean it is, and just get a feel for the overall palette you want for things. That's another way to do this. But there's something satisfying about knowing you're working on the final image. So I'm just kind of doing it right on the main piece here. And there's nothing super in question about the overall approach to the color palette. It's not like we're doing something bizarre, right? This is all pretty natural feeling stuff, so I know we can get there in the end. Okay, let's see what's next here. You know what? I'm gonna include... Let's do the satchel, and we'll do the little, like, patch on the hat. We'll do that together. So we'll do satchel / hat patch. Oh, thanks, Rushback. What color is the coat? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I've been avoiding it. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to make a choice soon here. It's going to be a big deal. But I think I'm going to have to leave you guys on a cliffhanger coat color, because unfortunately we have reached the end of the stream. But we've made a lot of progress. We got the Ambience Occlusion done. We're starting to work on the colors. They're coming together. We're moving from a flat drawing into something that's starting to get some dimension to it. But yeah, there's still a lot to go. And when we get those graphic shadows in, when we start bringing in the lights, we'll probably imply some filtered elements from like maybe a canopy of forest above. We'll get some ground cover in. We'll get some bounced light from the ground hitting. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff that we're going to bring in here, which will be a whole lot of fun. So I'm hoping you can join me again for my stream next week, where we'll continue with Fox Wizard and her friends. But for now, I think we'll call it. So thank you again for joining me. And just remember to hit the like, subscribe, hit that bell, leave a comment. All that stuff helps us out tremendously. Keeps our community thriving here, keeps our channel going. So it's always appreciated. And stay tuned for other awesome content here on CGS from our other super talented mentors. Some awesome stuff we've got, modeling stuff, animation, VFX, all kinds of stuff here. So check that out. And if you're interested in some of my own stuff, you can catch me on Instagram. Catch me outside. How about that? I just walked into a meme. You can catch me on Instagram, #ArtofTy. All right, thanks, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.